Hey, good morning, lovelies. We are having the very last lesson of the free web development bootcamp. A little bit scary, but oh, how lovely and exciting. Gosh, I'm not excited to be rid of you all, obviously, but I am very excited that we're sort of getting a chance to break off and do different things after this. So after this, you've got the opportunity to start studying independently, maybe look around and start applying for some jobs if you feel ready. Yeah. Or do you know what? If you're not quite finished with the coursework or not, I'd be terribly surprised if you were entirely finished with your projects after the stream. That's not a big deal at all. We're still going to be around. We're still going to be in the forums. We're still going to be in the Discord's what people call IRC these days, isn't it? And we're still going to be happy to help. Everything is stressful and everything, well, depending on where you are, everything's a little bit cold and miserable. But everything's, oh, good morning, Muju. Oh, and good morning or good afternoon to everybody out there. Shall we get started today? It's okay. You're not behind at all. Somebody was saying, oh, I'm a bit, you're not. There's no deadlines. There's no pacing on this. We go kind of fast through the streaming the lessons just because we want to go ahead and keep up a good pace. You are not behind. You're not missing anything. This is just learning. There's no deadlines. Nobody's going to come and yell at you. Oh, except for me yelling at you about how everything's fine. So I want to go ahead and taking a look at, we're going to come into the curriculum and come all the way down to the page to the responsive web design because I want to be a little bit smug. Oh, gosh, Jess, that's not like you at all. But I want to be a little bit smug together. I want you to be smug with how much we've covered so far because this is just an absolutely incredible amount of work. And you all have been doing this from the beta curriculum, so you're some of the first people to test this. Learned HTML? Yeah. Learned CSS. Oh, they've updated the little progress bar. And this little progress bar just covers how much we covered together. And I've left them like this on this account so you can see how much of this you've done on your own, which is terrifying. Learned about CSS colors. Forms. Learned about forms are so hard. And not just forms, but building a form project. Oh, for those of you who are sort of, well, for those of you who are just joining on the stream, hello. And for those of you who are taking part in the bootcamp, can you let me know which project you thought was the hardest or you think is the hardest you're still working on one? Because this is just I think the survey form is the hardest. It's both kind of hard to think of a creative survey form to do, but also it's hard. Right. It's not just, and then when we learn about accessibility, accessible forms are even harder. I mean, it's important, and writing good, clean forms is a great part of being a solid HTML dev. Do we say HTML dev? Yeah. Or being a front end dev. But we learned about the box model. We learned about Flexbox, adding some box to our box. We did a lot of that one together. We built a nutrition label, learning about typography. We didn't get through this much of this one together, which is a shame because this one was really hard. But we built a quiz, another kind of form, really focusing on accessibility. Oh, good morning, lovely. We did our tribute paid project. We learned about pseudo selectors. Remember those pseudo classes with the double dots? Stuff like hover or stuff like root is really important. We practiced our CSS by doing some art. We built a little piano. Oh, you're not showing me any of my progress in that. I promise we've done that together. We did a technical documentation page. And if you've just started that, that's super fine. Oh, remember the city skyline where we learned about CSS variables, which are really similar to JavaScript ones. We tried some CSS grid with the product landing. This is so much. This is too much for 6 weeks, isn't it? We learned about, we did and this is just this week. We did our penguin on Monday. Little bit smug that we did all of our CSS animation yesterday. Yeah. And today we're going to look at the very last project. Isn't that terrifying? Isn't that exciting? Oh, it looks like they've updated the loading screen. Yeah, that's fine. Everything's fine. So, this, I think the building an accessible quiz is the hardest project so far as skills, which is weird because a little bit earlier in this. But here, I think this is going to be the most important project you do. So just as a heads up, we are going to have a guest session tomorrow. We're going to have Lola Odiola, which is just a joy to say, joining us to talk about web standards. So a lot of times you all have asked, oh, why does CSS do this? Or why does JavaScript do that? And they're all fair questions. And the answers are because there's sort of a club of people and companies who make the decisions about what go into these web technologies. So Lola's going to talk to us about what web standards are and sort of space for participation, which is pretty laid back. But this is not the last time we'll see each other because Ramon and I will be doing office hours this Saturday. It's going to be real laid back. Nothing bad is going to happen. Wow. Nothing bad is going to happen on stream. I can't promise the world between now and then will be calm and reassuring. But one thing we might want to talk about a lot during the office hours are that next step after these boot camps. So a lot of you may want to say, oh, I want to apply for jobs coming out of this, or maybe I just want to tune up my portfolio. I want to demonstrate these skills. And this personal portfolio website's really going to do that, isn't it? So I'm going to go ahead and open all these up. So we want to create a personal portfolio website that looks a little bit like this. Oh, heck. When I say looks, I mean passes these tests. Yours do not have to look anything like this. But this gives you a chance to show off the projects you've done to date. And even more importantly, this is something I would expect to see I would expect to see as part of the job application process. And you say, well, Jess, heck, I'm sharing this wrong. Let me share it so you all can see the whole tab. Just being rubbish where I was like, as you can see here. No, you can't. Oh. There we are. You all are. Give me just a second. Everything's fine. We're having a little tiny bit of technical issues. I'm going to fix those right now because they're just technical issues. While I'm fixing this, to be able to share my screen again, I'd like to ask, do any of you have a personal portfolio website now? If you do, if you don't mind me showing other people on stream, can you give me the link to it on screen? No, it's a very high risk sort of ask, isn't it? Oh, hey, can you all give me URLs and I'll look at them in another window first. I trust you all and adore you all, but give me just a second and I will get this fixed. Everything is completely fine. What's going on behind the scenes is I just need to fix my settings to make sure I can share my screen because it's a little bit of a privacy. All of my security settings are high. Where is screen sharing? Screen recording. There we are. That's strange. That looks like it should work. All right. It looks like StreamYard's being just a little bit rubbish about letting me share my whole window. Can I share my tab? How frustrating. Okay, Mervin saying that that you got kicked out as well. Maybe screen share is just having a rough morning. I absolutely get that that happens sometimes. So here we've got an example of what the personal portfolio webpage could look like if we wanted to make one. And if it's okay, can I show you my own personal portfolio website? It's not much of a portfolio, but mine looks complete. I was going to say mine looks completely different. You know what? I haven't updated mine in about a million years. So maybe I'd love to keep streaming after the boot camp is over. Maybe the first couple of sessions I'll do are going to be me fixing up my own personal website. Yeah. Oh gosh, look at that little tiny. So mine's really stripped down. I say, hey, I've got a section for stuff I've written. Up to date as of 2017, as you do, which was just a couple years ago, if we recall. Talk about my work. Oh wow, this was several years ago when I still it talks about this. Yeah. So this is the kind of stuff I've done for mine, but we're going to look at what we're going to do for yours. Let's hmm. Let's go ahead and make this work. I fear I may have to close Chrome and come back to make it work. Are you all okay? Yeah, I don't think it'll quit the recording. I'll be right back. Hello again. Fantastic. So it looks like we're just going to continue to have low key technical issues this morning, which is very, very relaxing, huh? So, what we're going to do today is we're going to make, you all are so patient. We're going to make a personal portfolio website. Hello again. Sorry about that. Computers, they were a mistake. The fact that I'm teaching you all to do more stuff with computers is probably a crime. Oh, no, really? I was like, oh, look, your personal website can have lots of different things. And looking at mine, it's kind of a sign that I need to tune that up if I'm going to show it off, huh? So we've got our user stories here. I'm going to copy and paste these over because I like to break them down a little bit more. And the big thing I want to push is if I can be mean to you all one last time, I'd love to encourage you to make sure that your personal portfolio website is really different. It's yours. If you say, you know what, purple is my favorite color. I want all of this to be purple. I mean, purple text on purple background is going to be a little difficult to pull off. But it's yours. Yeah. I want to, if it's not a bother, I would love to sort of get a feel for who you are when I look at your portfolio website. Because ideally, always, is programming an inherently creative act? That's a really interesting question. I'm pretty sure that web development, like especially on the front end, feels very creative, doesn't it? Feels like painting with light, I always say. I think all programming might be an inherently creative act. We're making, I often say, something that's real and imaginary. It's a real digital thing. We're making something with word puzzles, and that feels a bit creative, doesn't it? But I'm going to be even more cruel to you all than usual. We're just going to do a couple of these user stories together just to sort of remember what that process felt like of breaking these down into technical requirements. So here we've got what the users expect from us. And in our HTML and in our CSS, we're going to turn that into what kind of code we need to write to make this happen. Cool. And the worst things, the best, the worst, I don't think I'm going to write much CSS. I don't think I'm going to write any CSS for you. Y'all are going to do this all on your own. I'm not going to give you much that's super useful because I really want to see your own creativity if that's not a bother. Like, you all are so interesting and so smart. I'd really like to see what you do. So, user story 1, my portfolio should have a welcome section with an idea of welcome section. I am so lazy. I am the worst teacher. Also, I ran out of coffee this morning. I absolutely refuse to do this work. Can you tell me what kind of element I should go ahead and what kind of element do I need to meet user story 1? Me being even lazier than usual for the last class to be terrible to you all. And while I'm waiting for someone else to do the work for me, Atraf is asking if I recommend this book, Cracking the Coding Interview. I don't think I've read it. I'm so sorry. For stuff like programming interviews, I often recommend people write lots and lots of essays about them. They write about them extensively online. I'm always a big fan of free resources. Yeah. Do you know what I like better? Is I like making companies interview y'all to get that experience this way. But that's really high pressure. That's really scary. So I'm so sorry I'm not familiar with the book, so can't recommend it or unrecommend it. Disrecommend? A warn against it. So I am even lazier than usual. What kind of element do I need to write for user story 1? I think we both know. Both know in our hearts. We're going to create a conceptual box. Our conceptual box, I think, a section here for 2 reasons. 1, you all already know my first reason is it's got more semantic meaning than a div, which I'm really, really into. But also it says my portfolio should have a welcome section with the idea of welcome section. We can do this. This is chill. And here we'll put an ID. We don't have anything in there yet. But I think when we run our tests, and this is not a loading page, is it? It's a personal portfolio. Oh, Omar is saying, like, you know what? I want to see some H1s in there. I bet we're going to do that. Should I go ahead and put an H1 in here as well? Yeah. Oh, wait. Oh gosh, user story too. You are well ahead of me. Should I go ahead and do that now then? H1, H1. Oh gosh. Whose name should I steal? Or should I pick a and some, you know, whose name I'm going to steal? I'm going to borrow Ramon's name because he's such a good example. Ramon's. No, I'm not going to pretend to be Ramon. He would do a much better. And we just got that warning to save. And I like that because it's very sort of real world. You saw me for a second be like, can I be Ramon? I was like, I should probably stick with being me. So, Omar, you're such a sweetheart. And we can see that it's back here behind our test suite, Jessica's portfolio page. We're going to run our tests. And I think, because this covers user story 1, should have a welcome section with an ID of welcome section and welcome users. Oh, heck. Users. Let's get rid of you. JavaScript. I'm not going to write a bit of you today. You can add JavaScript to this if you want. I'm very lazy. And then we say the welcome section should have an H1 element that contains text. I think we should see 3 passing tests here, right? And here, passing tests feel a lot like those green bars we got when we were doing the lessons, don't they? So we should get at least one that says, oh, dang, you're using HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Good for you. We should get a point for that. And then we should get a point for user story 1 and a point for user story 2. I think I've got a gentle indication. Hey, 3 out of 12. That's exactly what we want to see. So we got our 1 point for using HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Perfect, easy, chill, relaxing. Number 1 passes. We've got a welcome section with the ID of welcome section. Number 2, Omar, thank you again, my lovely. We've got that H1 element in there. Cool. Let's go ahead and, this next test gives us a really good idea of what we're going to be doing next. I'm going to delete user story 1 and 2. I'll review them at the end. It's okay. I'll say the portfolio should have a projects section. We think probably a section again with the ID of the project section is going to have an ID of projects, isn't it? Oh, heck. And this feels like not to be unfair, but this feels like the kind of boring parts when we did CSS heavy lessons where we were building out the structure. 4 out of 12 passed. I should have a project section with the ID of projects. Yeah, let's take a look at you. My portfolio should have a project section with we're just zipping up. Now let's get hard. Let's get rid of you, user story 3. We're done with you. And one thing that feels very unfair here is that even when we finish all of our user stories, we are not done. This is really mostly telling us what we want in our HTML, what kind of elements we want and where they should be positioned. Yeah. It doesn't. Why is this not enough? Why is this not enough for a really, really good, really compelling portfolio page? I'm going to come back up to the top. And while you tell me why just these user stories is probably not enough for a really compelling portfolio page, I'm going to check out user story 4. It's going to be super laid back. We're going to say the project should contain at least one element with the class of project tile to hold project. Okay. Oh, you know what this is? It sounds like we need a box. Yeah? And I'm always so mean. I'm always pushing you. Pick the element that has the most semantic meaning. Y'all have heard that a million times by now, haven't you? But here, I think we can go for a reasonably generic empty box, yeah? How about a div? Let's see if a div passes this test. We want class project tile. Yeah. And we see that not a fool thing shows up. Yeah. Oh, maybe an H2? I think, yeah. We could put a bunch of things inside this div. So Omar's like, we're definitely gonna use a div. What if we used an H2 as like our slightly smaller? What I'm gonna do here is, maybe I've lied. Maybe I do need to write a little bit of CSS for you, with you, for you sounds very bold. H2. And this is where you're going to be linking to the projects you did elsewhere on the page. You're going to say my tribute page. Oh, there we go. That shows up. Let's save you. We've got a really good question. How do I have a font size that's automatically resized based on the width of the container? Well, why not using a media query? Because you're going to have to use one for this. But yeah, let's try. Oh, sorry, I'm just allergic to everything. So I think I'd probably use I'm just grabbing the MDN for, yay, you absolutely know what I'm getting. So I think, Leonardo, when you're talking about how do I set a font size that's responsive based on the width of the container, I think you would probably use one of these CS values that's a relative unit. Can you think, looking at this documentation, are there any units that directly relate to the width of the container? Just the worst teacher where you're like, I've got a basic question, and I'm like, ha 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 ha. I'm going to make you read the docs because I'm evil. Well, also because it's good practice to read the docs. But there's a unit of measurement in there that directly links to how wide your viewport is, your viewport width. It's cheating, isn't it? I might, if I was wanting to set a font size that automatically resizes to that, I would probably use view width as my font size unit of measurement. Oh, Carlos, you're having internet connection problems too. We're having problems over here. It's just one of those days. It's fine. So, a tribute page. And you know what? I want to go ahead and I want to make this a link. Link. I'm going to make this a link that goes to my own tribute page. So I'm just linking to my code pen here. Went to the top of that and grabbed it. Muju suggested that I'm not evil. I'm going to continue to be mean to y'all until you're like, she is. She's the worst. I'll convince you one day. Actually, if this portfolio project doesn't convince you, nothing will. Because this one's going to be really hard. So should I have an element with a class of project tile, hold a project, and the project section should have at least one link to a project. I feel very cautiously sure that we should see 6 different tests pass here. We're going to run our tests. 6 tests are passed. We're fine. Let's make sure that they're the ones we expect. Oh, we're going to set up a nav bar. Well, I mean, we're not going to set. You are going to set up a nav bar. So I think that this is a really good example of the fact that just doing the requirements is not going to give you a fully featured enough portfolio site to be able to show it to potential employers, to be able to show it to your friends, your mom. Because like we're halfway done. The user stories say we're halfway done. There we are. And this isn't much of, look at this. This isn't much of a portfolio project at all, is it? If I tried to show that to an employer, I'd be a little bit embarrassed. So I'm going to, and this, you say, Jess, we've hardly been going at all. And yeah, today I want to spend most of our time on question and answer. So please give me any questions you have about your portfolio project, or any questions you have sort of about tech in general, or any past lessons. This isn't the last time you'll get to ask them. We'll definitely have time on Saturday if you like. I'll still be in the forums. I'll still be in the Discord. It's all going to be okay. But yeah, I wanted to go ahead and just talk our way through half of the user stories, which I think we have. We've heck. Yeah, so we're about halfway done. 5 out of 11 feels halfway-ish. Do you all have any questions for me about this portfolio page or about anything at all? If you don't, what I'm going to do is escape and go drink coffee and go be evil to people elsewhere on the internet instead of you wonderful learners. Yeah. Do we have any kind of questions? This is just going to be a really laid back project. Oh, Chrislyn, this is such a fantastic. Oh, heck, sorry. So, okay, well, if we can't come to the session on Saturday, that's fine. How are we going to get our questions answered? This is perfect. Head over to the forums and ask questions whenever you want. Or from the forum, you should be able to grab a link to the Discord. And you should come and chat to us in the Discord if you want. If you're more comfortable, I'm told younger people prefer the Discord than the forum. And if you get questions or you get stuck, or if you want to show off your work, that's a really, really great place to do it. Just because we're not doing streams for the bootcamp anymore doesn't mean that we're going away. And I love teaching, and I hope I've made it very clear that I adore all of you. I'm going to go ahead and take a break for a week or two after this. So that makes it sound like I'm going on vacation. It's not that grand, but I'm not going to be streaming for a week or two. When I come back, Ramon and I think we'll probably, I don't want to promise we'll probably stream together. Ooh, we got a really good question about pseudo-classes. So if you're interested in working on personal portfolio websites together and doing some other bits and bobs on stream, I'll be doing that on my own Twitch. Yeah. Also, we've got hang on. We've got a ton of really good questions. Let's go at the top. Let's start with Maria, my lovely. So that's overly familiar, isn't it? My lovely. I hope you don't mind me being a bother. You're a little bit confused about pseudo-elements. That's chill. Ooh, and this gets to be a philosophical question very quickly. Is it correct that every HTML element could have one? I don't think every HTML element could have a pseudo class. I think so. Let's go ahead. Let's grab pseudo classes. The pseudo classes are super weird, right? I'm sorry to be so excited because you're like, I'm confused. And I'm like, you're right to be confused. They're kind of weird. Oh, and I see Ramon in the chat saying, yeah, we'll keep streaming. We'll goof off and stream. We've got a question in a minute about the next bootcamp, and we'll answer these one at a time. So a pseudo class is a keyword that specifies a special state. Yeah. So these can be like button hover, I think is the one we covered in class together. And that means when the user's pointer is over the hover, it'll change the color of it or the behavior. So most visible elements in your HTML page can have pseudo classes applied to them, but not all of them. Oh, wait, are we talking about pseudo elements? Sorry, I jumped in assuming we were talking about pseudo classes. Let's talk about these both back to back to make sure that to make sure that we're keeping them conceptually separate. So pseudo-class is adding additional state. So it feels a little bit like JavaScript, where it says in Java, and don't worry if you're not doing the JavaScript course. Ramon, when your learners are learning JavaScript, have they learned if and else stuff? Be like, oh, if this is going on, do this. Like I think the JavaScript bootcamp would have learned if behaviors. And pseudo classes feel a little bit like if in JavaScript. I say, oh, if this element has this condition, apply these rules. So here what we're saying is, hey, my buttons, if I'm hovering over my buttons, turn the color to blue. Oh, cool, yeah. So, and have a fuss at me if this doesn't make sense to those of you who are learning JavaScript. Does that feel kind of like if behavior in JavaScript, where I'm saying, hey, we're talking about buttons, so this is all about buttons, and if I hover or when I hover, apply this rule to make the color blue. Does that feel a little bit iffy? So that's pseudo classes. Those change the state, or those change the appearance based on the state, based on what's happening to that element now. Where pseudo elements, are these ones where we're selecting a very, very specific one. So we say the first line, or the first child, or the nth child, the 11th child. So this one, I really like this question from Maria because I have to really stop and think about it. Does every HTML element have a pseudo class? I think it would be difficult to use pseudo class to apply to something like title, because you've just got that one title. Yeah, most HTML elements you can commonly access will be accessible using pseudo elements. Is that okay? Yeah. Okay, a little bit. So you're saying, well, I'm wondering about the things, the elements that are called before or after. Yeah. I like to think of pseudo elements as being really specific about who you're talking about. So imagine you're at a party. I guess we're going to imagine ourselves back to 2019, aren't we? Imagine you're at a party and there are 9 girls named Maria there because it's the most beautiful name. And there's a ton of girls who have beautiful names at this party. And there's 9 Marias here. What a pseudo element would do is say, oh, I want to very carefully specify which Maria I'm talking about. So here on your website, you might say, I'm talking about the paragraph element, and I'm talking about, I want to specifically pay attention to, I want to specifically apply these rules to the first line. But if I was talking about people at a party, I would say, oh, hey, I want to give this fancy hat to Maria. And I come to my CSS and I say, oh, I've got a bunch of elements named Maria. Okay, I want to give this to the Maria who's next to the punch bowl. So, oh, you know what? If the punch bowl area is a parent element, I'll say the first child, the one closest to the punch bowl. I know it's super confusing. Does that feel okay? So pseudo classes are like, oh, I want to, this really depends on the state. What temporary or permanent thing has happened to this element that I want to specify? And here's pseudo elements. I'm just saying, oh, I might have a lot of you on the page. I want to specify just one specific element, or just a couple of you, or just a rule. Or I just want to touch something like the first line. They do contain a bunch of different stuff. I'm going to be cruel. I'm always mean to you. Whenever something doesn't feel right, or whenever it feels weird, pull up a little scratch pad in CodePen or CodeSem or whatever kind of coding scratch box you like, and just play with it for a while. Just is doing a lot of work there, but try and see which ones you can select using these pseudo elements and how they feel. Yeah, that's not very satisfying, is it? Where I'm like, Okay, let's talk about this. Let's use a waffly metaphor using your beautiful name and having a lot of Marias at a party, which would be fantastic. But really, I think in order to get this to feel more and more solid, just trying it a bunch of times. I'm so sorry that practice tends to be the best way to do it. So, Carlos, how do we make a portfolio with HTML and CSS and put all the projects we do there? So you can do it right here in Code Sandbox just fine. Ooh, heck. So you can do it right here and that'll totally work. Or if you want to put it someplace else, you can put it on GitHub Pages, for example, which is a way to deploy that in GitHub. Or you can look at hosting and say, oh, I want to copy and paste this into an HTML file and into a CSS file, and then I want to upload it to the web. Ramon, do you want to maybe go through the practice of this sometime? So sometime on stream we can take a code pen or even write a website and then show folks how to put it up on hosting. Yeah. Chrislyn is asking, hey, so JavaScript. I always want to be careful that Java is a deadly serious backend programming language, and I'm not very good at Java. We're not going to be teaching Java anytime soon, I don't think. But the next JavaScript bootcamp. So this is going to sound very lazy. Oh no, I'm not sorry if it sounds lazy. But Ramon and I and the team are going to take a couple weeks off. We love teaching you, but it's a little bit tiring. So we're going to take a week or two off and reflect on the bootcamp and then come back and start planning for the next one. I bet money we're going to keep doing these. But we don't have a date yet. As soon as we have a date, we'll mention it on the forum, we'll mention it in the Discord, and we'll probably email everyone just to bother you and fill up your inbox. Ooh, Muju, what is the difference between backend and front end? Yes, this is such a good question. Backend is all the stuff you can't see. Front end is all the stuff so HTML and CSS, yeah, always, always. Almost every time I say always, I get in trouble, don't I? They're almost always going to be front end technologies. Yeah. JavaScript can be front end and back end because sometimes you use JavaScript to put stuff on the page. Let me pick a book. Which book are we going to look at? Oh, I really like The Art of Logic. So if we're thinking about a website as a book, and wow, I am recommending it. The Art of Logic is really fantastic. If this book was a web page, the covers, the stuff we can see, are going to be the front end, and the stuff that really make it go are going to be the insides of the book, the writing. And that's actually a terrible metaphor because you could still see the insides of this book. Just not right now. But yeah, backend is the stuff that's not immediately visible to the user that gives it the extra functionality, like a database is a backend technology usually. The bits and gubbins of your website that talk to your database, probably going to be backend. And sometimes you'll hear the phrase full stack. And that's a developer whose boss makes them work on the front end of the website, so the stuff he's, and the back end of the website. Folks tend to feel stronger in one or the other, and that's super chill. Oh. I'm so sorry. Does that feel all right? Ooh. I want to know how I can post my projects on GitHub. A, take the stuff you've built, copy and paste it over. You already have 3 projects you can put on GitHub right. Wait, 5? 4? When you finish this bootcamp, you will have 5 projects from this that you can put on GitHub right now. And it is let's go ahead and do it together. GitHub.com. Oh, wait. Nah, let's not do it together right now. Sorry. And It's a good sign to turn on two-factor authentication. But you can just take your code from here, copy, create files in GitHub, and copy and paste it over all within the website of GitHub. So you don't have to do any of the stuff from the terminal if you don't want. But saying new project, new file, and copying and pasting that in will absolutely work. Hey. Oh gosh, we're not really going on leave. I'm going to stop streaming for a little while. Maybe a week. Is a week okay? I'm asking permission. I'm going to stop streaming for a week or two because I like to sleep and I'm very lazy. But we're still going to be around for questions. We're not leaving the Discord. We're not leaving the forum. We're not abandoning you. I'm just going to sleep in for a week or two. And we've also got, Bhavin really points out that, you know what? Oh gosh, that's the wrong one. Bhavin points out, we actually have that guest session from Rizal, who talks about how to get, there we go, that talks about how to get your stuff up on GitHub. You're absolutely right. Oh gosh. Muji's asking, what are the names of all the books on my shelf? I've got a bunch of Japanese comics, which are very nerdy. But I'll take a picture of my bookshelf and post it to Twitter if that's okay. So I'm not taking up all your time. The ones I really recommend for new developers. Oh heck, sorry about that. What do I recommend for new developers? Ooh, all of these are going to be about ethics. All of these are going to be about ethics. Ooh, yeah. Oh no, I'm such a downer, y'all. Oh no. Look at these. I'm such a So one thing I really recommend, not even necessarily this book, but I really like to encourage new developers read about and think about burnout, because so many of y'all work yourselves so hard and you do not solve anything by burning yourself out. I really like The Age of Surveillance Capitalism. And this is not an easy read. Look. But this really talks about how in big tech and even in small startups, our data as users gets hoovered up and dragged around. I also like Programmed Inequality, which talks about gender shifts in technology, how this focuses on the United Kingdom, but saying, you know what, this was primarily a really female-focused job that sort of got pushed out. Human Rights in the Age of Platforms, which might be a bit advanced. So this is talking about these big platforms we have. We've got stuff like these big companies like Apple and Google and Twitter and YouTube, how they impact human rights and intersect with human rights. And I really like to get technologists thinking really early about ethical impacts. For those of you who've already been thinking a little bit about algorithms, I also quite like algorithms of oppression. So really thinking about how this one specifically looks at search engines, but questions around how the things we automate and how the decisions we set computers up to make impacts people in ways that we hopefully didn't mean to and should be policing against. You don't necessarily want to read all of them. They're heavy. Ooh, we've got 2 questions that are sort of linked. So what do we want to learn next? That's such a hard question. That's so deeply personal. I'm so sorry that I can't tell you what to learn next. If you're learning some JavaScript, if you've done the JavaScript bootcamp as well, maybe learning some frameworks, even though when we had Stuart Langridge come and talk to us, he's like, rough. He doesn't actually talk like that. It's like, oh, well, maybe we want to consider not using as many frameworks, which I agree on, but many employers ask them for them. Or you might want to continue to do some more project-based learning. Yeah. Ooh, any programming book recommendations? Yes. So many. I'm fun at parties. Can you tell? Where is that? Oh, if you want to understand the processes behind programming languages, um, the Introduction to the Theory of Computation is a proper draw. If you try and read this, come and get me, and we'll do a study group around it because I had a hard time with this. Talks about sort of here's the concepts behind this. Oh, the author of hang on. So I really like Introduction to the Theory of Computation. It's hard. It's hard. So this is more about computation, which is a conceptual step down. So it's the sort of theory that computer languages are based on. I've got a really good Python book. Do I? Do I have a really good Python book? Ah, if you all wanted to start learning Python, I'm spending a lot of this call turned around and ignoring you all. I really like Python for Everybody. And Python for Everyone also has a Coursera course. Other books I really like for programming are it's not a programming book, but we had Felina come and talk to us, and she's got a book about the programmer's mind. I really recommend that. It's not on my bookshelf because I cheated and got a digital copy. Yeah. Ooh, website suggestions for articles and all that. So you'll find them all over the place. I really like Dev 2. And Dev 2 is like a very friendly social media site for dev stuff. Like it's very warm and very cutting. And if they're not nice to you, you come and get me. I'll fight them. Ajit's asking, oh, who's the author of the book about burnout I have? And oof, this is just going to be a huge. Oh, this is all the books. Oh no, everything's bad. Oh, cool. Class Central's got information about the Python improvement. So the burnout book I've got is from Emily and Amelia Nagoski. Oof. Oh, that's too many books. I'm going to have to reshelve these. And this is a good question. So should we learn both Python and JavaScript? I'd go ahead and wait. So if you're saying, well, I want to keep working on JavaScript, I'd probably wait until I felt really moderately confident in JavaScript before starting to add Python. They've got a lot of concepts in common, but yeah, you want to just go ahead and get the syntax fixed enough in your mind where they're not getting sort of little crashes here and there when you're trying to reach for a concept. I'm so sorry to have spent so much time being like, here's a book, but any opportunity to try and push books about ethics on learners is absolutely what I'm about. Yeah. Ramon and I will keep streaming in between this bootcamp and the next one. Coming out of this, we will go ahead and we'll be talking about and planning the next bootcamp. And we'll go ahead and we'll announce that to you all as soon as we've got that settled. In the meantime, this is a fantastic time to take some time, wrap up your projects, wrap up your lessons. It doesn't matter if it's this week. It doesn't matter if it's next week. It doesn't matter if it's 6 months from now. None of this material is going away. None of these videos are going away. And I'm not going away. Take your time, your life, and especially if you're someplace that's getting a little bit warmer right now, enjoying yourself and being kind and soft to yourself. More important than programming, really. I think I'm going to go ahead and leave you for the very last lesson of this bootcamp. Isn't that scary? Isn't that exciting? If you do want to hang out in the meantime, so after, you can find me on Twitter. Actually, I'll go ahead and put all these. Here's where I live on Twitter. Here's where I live on Twitch. Those of you who are watching on Twitch, that's going to be especially confusing, isn't it? Actually, are all my handles the same thing? Oh no, I can hear me as I talk. How absolutely upsetting. There we go. So those are the places you can find me in between now and the next boot camp. I'm very sorry if I sometimes swear a little bit on Twitter. So we've got Arak's asking, who's the author of the algorithms book? And that would be algorithms of mass destruction, or we've got you got to be specific about which algorithms book. Hold on. Wow. So this is algorithms of oppression, and that's Safia Noble, who's absolutely brilliant, who I believe is up at the who's might be up at Berkeley. I can't recall. I'm so sorry. But this book is such an easy read. It's really, really accessible. It's so good. Fabulous. Yeah. So Maria's saying, hey, can we talk about these elements a little bit more? And of course we've got time. So reading about them and they're still not quite clicking, and that's super chill. I mean, saying it's super chill that those aren't clicking. So let's think about pseudo elements as nicknames for our elements that are hyper specific. So I would say, well, we've got a bunch of Jessicas in my class. I want to specify that I mean Jessica Rose. I'm with that specific Jessica. These pseudo elements may say, hey, I want to target a specific part of a selected element or a specific element. So here, first line's a really good example. I want to grab the paragraphs. Cool. But I want to go ahead and specify. I want to create an element that's not a real element. I want to get that extra layer of specificity. I'm going to get that first line and apply some rules. And please grab, copy and paste these into your code and check them out. And the way it works is you say, here's my selector, and that could be a element selector, level selector, that could be a class. It's an ID, wouldn't make a lot of sense. And here you're adding the extra qualifier, the very specific nickname for the area you want. Yeah? The double colons are saying, hey, I want to be really specific about what section of an element you want. And we could talk about, so after is a really good one. When I say, hey, I want you to set these rules for what happens after the last child of a selected element. Yeah? I'm so sorry that, would it be okay to ask you to sort of come through this index and look at these and try these out? It's not these. Let's go ahead and bring this discussion into the forum. You can private message me if that's not weird. And we can look at this. And if we have to, oh gosh, if it's helpful, we can even set up a one-on-one or a short look at these. Yeah, I think if this isn't very patronizing, I think going away and playing with these and then coming back might make these fit a little bit better. Yeah, I hope that's not especially cruel to say. Well, have a play with these and then come on back. And if you've got more questions, we'll try some more. Sorry. I think if it's okay, I'm not abandoning any of you. I'm still going to be in the forum. I'm still going to be in the Discord. I might go ahead and end the very last lesson for today. I will let you go. I hope you have an easy afternoon or morning or middle of the night. And I'll chat to you then. We'll come back. We'll do more stuff. We'll be here tomorrow for Lola's session. And we'll be here on Saturday as well. Everything's okay. Everything on your computer is okay. The world is big and stressful and weird. But these are just word puzzles. They can't hurt you. I'm going to go ahead and let you go. Please have the easiest possible day.